Welcome to the workshop number 7 now. We've gone through a lot of the content already and understand a lot of the media landscape and also the channels, etc. So today I think it's going to be very helpful for the wineries that you are in the position of choosing your distributor or not sure whether this is the right fit for you, etc. So today I'm gonna walk you through of what sort of the aspect that you might need to considering when you coming down to the picking the partner that you're going to work with in China. Let me just quickly share my screen. Great. Hope, hope my
Oh, I think we might have lost Christy there. We might just give it a few seconds to see if she can reconnect again.
I would say those are very useful content and also information that you can always referring back to. And today we're going to talk about how to select the right e-commerce distributor, or not only focus on e-commerce, but also all the online, the offline channels. And also we have some best practice for wine brands that you can take considerations and take some learnings and insights. So for the first part, I think most of people are very clear what's the role of the distributors should be working on or take the part with. Just from very top level from the brand, when you engage with the distributor, whether it's one or multiple, generally initially they would do some market research or analysis just to understand what sort of the positioning of your brand, your product should be sitting in the market. And by doing that homework, they should be able to tell you an estimated volume. And based on their experience and the channels that they coverage, they should have a relatively better idea of what sort of the projection they should be getting in the market. So this is a really good insight for you to understand and also to really suss out what sort of the capability this distributor is. And also for the second one, which is very clear, like inventory management, once they imported all the stock in China or in the market, that they need to manage all the stock, make sure that they can control, and also to report back to you how's the inventory volume looks like, and what sort of the progress of the sales volume. And then, of course, the fulfillment. Most of the distributor, they engaging with a what we call their 3PL or fulfillment partners there to distribute those products from each of the warehouses based on the channels. The warehouses are different, so they will need to be responsible for fulfilling all of those orders, whether it's online or offline. And brand promotion and marketing, I think this is one thing that has been kind of like a separate from the responsibility by the distributor now. They would be responsible for the trade marketing most of the time, to manage all those channels, and also to supporting all those promotions through the rebate or different kind of like a format. But now I think more and more business or the distributor, that they are requiring the brand to also doing some brand promotion in what we call as the brand marketing, just to really emphasizing your brand in the market, to helping them justify the price and also justify the differentiation of your brand versus other similar competitors. And of course that they would need to responsible for managing your customer relationship, whether it's a B channel or maybe C. So this is a mainly needs to be done properly. And also I think the more we get into the e-commerce, the more important those customer relationship management is because a lot of the digital channels now we can creating those private traffic. If you recall, like the previous workshop that we talked about, the WeChat ecosystem. So the WeChat private groups is very powerful. It's like kind of like a private sales channel that you can engaging with your consumers directly. Most of the time, the distributor are leveraging those channels, what we call as a private traffic, to driving sales without spending too much money on the brand marketing or etc. And last but not least, the regulatory compliance. I think everyone's very clear. We just need to follow all of those compliance in the market. And of course, I think one thing for brand to be careful with is what's the ownership of the IP, ownership of all your brand products, such as. So yeah, this is just a very top level role of the distributor. And advantage of involving distributors, I think you are very clear as really depends on the market size and also whether your internal team capability is. They generally are providing the expertise in the local market and also helping you to establish your channels based on their existing coverage. So sometimes that the brand might think, oh, I actually can set up my own team in China to do all of those work, which is really reasonable. I mean, like it's achievable, but probably it's going to be a 5 years or maybe 10 years timeline that you can plan with. In the early stage, I think it's still worth to leverage the distributors' capability to help you open up this market. And later on, you can decide on what sort of the pathway that your business wants to establish. Yeah, this is what the quick overview of what's the roles of distributors' responsibility should be looks like. And then we move on to the advantage of involving your distributors. I think up to like focus on the brand building, which is what you can work with the distributor to make sure that your brand is growing sustainable and also not shrinking in your market shares. And if you are considering to work directly with those retailers or maybe set up your own team, I think those are some key considerations that you can start planning. Depends on which status of your business and how long have you been in the market. Maybe you can start to planning your supply chain capabilities, so you don't need to rely on too much on the distributor, and also to start to building your own retail relationship. Maybe you can appoint one salesperson in China that to start growing this channel coverage and also managing those key accounts. And of course that just to be mindful that once you started to set up your own team in China to manage your business, of course there will be additional investment from the business operational side that will occur. And yeah, I think there's just like responsibility and also agility that might need to consider if you gone to that path. So there are a couple of scenarios as the business that initially they might rely on the distributor to go into the market to set up a couple of the channels to be maintained, and then gradually the brand can start planning and maybe start hiring from one person to maybe a team of 3 to 5 to start managing different areas of China and different channels as well. So it can be work parallel with your distributor at the same time. But down the track for the long term, it really depends on whether you want to set up your own proper team in China to fully manage the whole market, or you still want to partially be managed by the distributor. So we'll talk about those scenarios in a later time. So before we doing those picking like how and who, so I think just to lay out some of the common issues that generally were happening in the market when you work with a distributor or when you work with a not so responsible distributor, I would say that. So the first thing is the consumer end price is not aligned across channel and the countries. So this is the main, I think, challenge for most of the brand, not only in the wineries, but a lot of the retail business are facing the same challenge. And this is probably the most important thing that the brand needs to be aware of and to manage properly. Otherwise, it's going to causing a lot of the issues in the market, like mass pricing. It's not going to be fun for the brand, and also unit price is decreasing every year due to some heavy promotion or discount. So this has happened often when the distributors see the product is actually not going to move too much stock, so they have to, or they kind of like prefer to just do a simple way, as in offer the promotion and discount. By doing that, of course, the stock is going to move much quicker than before, but it's harming the brand and also creating the image of the brand in the market, saying this is a discount brand. So they will stop purchasing the product when it's in the normal price. They will have they kind of like grow the habit to wait until there's a promotion and then buy it. So this is another price related challenge, I think, for some of the distributor, that they would take some tactics, but it's going to harming the brand for long term. And then is the sales channel management is not clear, which I think initially when you setting up your business or started to exporting to different countries, especially in China, and this is a you just have to set up very clear with the partners that you work with and to draw the line of the regions that they're responsible for. The reason why I say it is China is a very unique market that it allows the say back, what which we called cross-border e-commerce. So this channel means that the product is dispatched from either from Australia warehouse or maybe from Hong Kong free trade zone warehouses. So this kind of the movement, it's still within the region outside of China. So the distributor who supply the stock to this channel might be your Australian local distributor rather than your China distributor. So when that happens, the product in China will coming from two different streams. One is the importer that who your Chinese distributor imported directly and registered everything in China, and another one which is the stock stored in, whether it's in Australia in Australia warehouse or maybe in Hong Kong free trade zone warehouses, but the stock is still flooded into China, but the pricing will be different because the tax and all of those costs that through those logistic and also the imported will make the consumer end price are different because the margins are different and also the two source of the stock are different. And another reason this is needs to be managed properly is so sometimes that the Australian distributor who's selling the stock in Australian retails, but some of the retails has the CBAC channel, so they will automatically open this kind of channel for the brand without notifying your local Australian distributor. So it's end of the day, the consumers see two different pricing for the same price. It's very confusing for them, and also it's very confusing for your end that you have no idea which stock is coming from. So this happens a lot. What we have seen in the market from different brands. So just mindful that initially when you set up your structure and agreement with your distributor, needs to be very clear on with what sort of the channels and also regions that they are responsible for. And another one is the too many stocks stored in warehouse. Luckily, I think for winery for the wine product itself doesn't really have like a much short lifetime. But still, I think when any product have too much stocks in one region, it's going to causing a lot of the issue when you would say the pricing drop or the flooded of the product. So you will pretty much lose the control of the pricing and lose the control of negotiating with your margin with your distributors. So those are the four common issues that we've seen in the market, and I just thought it's worth to mentioning. And also, if this is something that you're currently experiencing, we more than happy to have a chat and just to do our best to solving those issues, because it's going to damaging your brand long term. Um, the reason why those are the very important, because there are four, I think, very um, initial outcomes that it will drive to. So when your pricing is not aligned, or what we call is very messy, so there's no retailers wants to work with you, because they will say, unless I got the lowest price in the market, then I wouldn't be able to sell your product. So this is causing a lot of trouble for the brand when they want to go to additional retailers or additional channels. Because those retailers, for example, those grocery stores, that they would do their homework, and when they say the price is not aligned across different channels, then they will have this concern. And the second one, which is the consumers are going to be complaining. They're going to complaining to each of the channels, if they purchase the product are not the lowest price, and not all the channels are like. Guarantee of the lowest price, or they're not guaranteed to do the price match. So in that case, there was causing a lot of the confusion for the consumers, that they just have to spend extra time to comparing your product across different channels to get the cheaper price. So this is not ideal. And then is the China distributor is potentially going to competing with your cross-border e-commerce distributor in Australia. By doing that, the tactics that they might take is to reduce the price or to do the promotion. So at the end of the day, it's going to the very bad cycles of your pricing. So everyone's trying to offer the lower price. And the too many stocks in your warehouse is going to, as I mentioned, causing or lower your bargaining power when you comparing to when going to negotiate with your retailers or your distributor, because there's too much stocks over there that everyone can most of the resellers or the channels want to dump their product. Then those distributor or reseller, instead of purchasing from you, they're going to purchasing whoever offer the lowest price. So after saying that, I think just a quick case studies to show you how does the yellowtail, which is I think very interesting case studies, that how they have changed from what I called it would be 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. So in this first stage, initially when yellowtail entering China after their success in American market, given that they are positioning in a very affordable mass-produced high-quality wine in the US market. So this gives them a very good advantage from the pricing and from the naturally the taste of the wine, the quality of the wine from Australia are pretty good. So they had very good success in America. And then they started to expanding to China and trying to use the similar strategies and also positioning in the market. However, initially, when they enter the market, the distributor who are managing all the market for them, at that time, they haven't done much of the market research, and also just focusing on the offline channel. So leads to in the first stage there for the Yellowtail, they didn't receive as much success as they wished, or what they have seen in the American market. So initially very poor sales, and also the brand development is very limited. Not many people are aware of the Yellowtail. So this is the challenges initially for Yellowtail are facing. And moving forward, that they have changed slightly with their strategy. They've got a little more team to involved with this export market. So they did their research homework, understand what does the Chinese wine drinker are preferred, and what sort of the taste, what sort of the preference from just even the labeling, and also every single like a perspective that to enable them to fully understand, or at least they understand a lot more than what they used to. And so they focus on the innovation. They introduced a very tailored wine for China market, from the taste, from the price, and also from the channels itself. So this is their innovation to innovate a product that tailored for the China market. And also their USP, or the highlight of what they're trying to claim in the market, is very affordable premium wine. So this is the similar strategies as what they did in the US, but previously in the stage one that they didn't really emphasize that enough. So moving to the stage two, they actually very much like a focusing on this USP, telling people the quality of the wine, and also but very affordable. So they're doing all of those pricing comparison in the market to compare at that time a lot of those expensive wine. So at the stage two, on top of the offline, they also looked into the online, which is really smart strategy for Yellowtail, just because most of the offline channels that they do not want the pricing to be disclosed, or generally the margin for the offline channels are much more, so the RP is much higher. But for online, given the margin requirement is slightly smaller, but also I think for Yellowtail, when they talk about the affordability, the pricing range is just between $100 to 200 RMBs, which is very affordable, and also aligned with what the consumers are looking for from the online perspective. So when they're going to the online channel or the e-commerce channel, it's actually opened up a lot more wider customers for them. So this is what they have changed or tailored to the China market in the stage two, and of course that they've seen a really good sales volume increase. And I think by stage three, most of the people or the consumers recognize this logo, like the kangaroo yellow tail logo of the brand. So at this point, they started to explore a lot more and wider channels, and also work with the distributor in a very strategic way. So from the first part, which is the initial part, that they will have really clear of the channels, not only the direct import export channels, but also they have noticed that there's big volumes that are coming from the CBAC, as what I mentioned, the cross-border channels that, and they have no idea who actually export those stock to the China. So to preventing those kind of a green market or non-official channels. So they worked with the distributor to avoid and also to clean out all of those non-official channels imported wine. So they offered discount initially to clean the parallel import stocks. So to make the strong pricing tiers and also to make sure that the price structures are clear and steady, so the end consumers receive the price. It's the same across all of this channel. So by doing these tactics, probably it hurts for a short period of time, because some orders that are coming from Australia might be reduced, and from the Yellowtail brand itself, that they will see some of the channels are not doing as so well as they used to, but just because the stock is actually going towards a very different region. But after all of those practice and the tactics that they've implemented in the market, so in China, the Yellowtail product, they have cleaner all those stocks and also make sure all of these retailers are only importing the wine from the official distributor. So I think this is a really interesting case study that I thought to share. You're probably already aware of their experience and their success in China. It's still continued. I think they've done very well in building the brand and also to ensure the market is very clean and also structured and managed by the distributor. So some common scenarios when choosing distributors, like 35% of the international wine brands are fell into due to like the misalignment with the local distributors' preference. So I think those are three key points that when you work with your distributor and also when the distributor are giving your strategy everything, I just need to have those consideration of the culture difference in the market, what works well in your like in Australia market or the other export market might not necessarily works in China, just because it's a really unique market, as what we have explained in the previous workshops. The behaviors and also those media landscapes are very complex. So I think you just need to pay extra attention on the positionings and also the messages and also your product itself, whether it's aligned with the local market and whether it's able to resonate and talk to the consumers. And the second one, which is just be careful when you are over relying on one distributor or single platform, because that might damage you if there's anything happens for that particular partner or the channel, which means that you have no other resource or the channels that are able to navigate to or diverse your risk. And the final or the third one, which is needs to protect your IP, your intellectual property, like whether your logo, your trademark, those are the things I think very important initially. You just need to get it down. Because it's going to avoid a lot of the issue at the later time. And also just some examples here as well. I think the culture difference in the marketing is very important when you're going to the Asia market, especially. So, for example, the one of the brand that when they enter the China, the Bulldogs. So when they enter the China, they just applied exactly the same strategy that they've worked in the original country, from the labeling, from the messages, everything. But when they enter the China initially, those are kind of messages or positioning doesn't really meet the preference of the new generation of the consumers in China. It's really hard to create any awareness. It's hard to create any like engagement or feedback from the consumers. So this is the one key element I think for all of those communication strategies or your marketing, everything needs to consider. And also the second one, which is the over relying on the single distributor or single platform. So one of the brand they used to just selling on JD, and ignoring the rest of the channels. They believe this is going to be the only one that they need, but because of some changes with the JD due to different policies, due to the consumer behavior changes, so they actually experienced quite a lot of the fluctuations with the sales from one channel, and of course that now they are on multiple channels just to diverse their strategy, diverse their risk, and also to create a more touch point with the consumers when consumers are coming to shopping. And the final one, as I mentioned, the IP. So not sure if you're aware. So when Painford entered the China initially, they didn't protect their IP or the logos properly. So there was a couple of the what were called as like a fake logo or fake Penfold has been registered, unfortunately, to trying to damage the market by saying they are the official one and that they are supplying the stock towards a lot of the retailers, but it's actually not the official brand or official distributor by Painful. So they've actually been through quite a lot of the challenges through their IP and the profit loss. So those are just the three things I think it's really need to be mindful, and especially like the logo, your trademark, just get it registered if you are planning to go to other country. So we come into how to select the right distributor. Um, I think the first, the top line, the very top line understanding or the knowledge is you have to understand what sort of the stages of the distribution would involved, and then you can identify this distributor whether they are the master distributor, whether they have the capability for your supply chain, or maybe they are just only a local distributor who managed one or two channels. So this is kind of like a map to lay out um, the type of the distributor or the role of each section in the distribution model. So the first at the top one, generally the master distributors that who is able to manage um, most of the stages of the distribution, or maybe they are, whether they're using a third party, or maybe they have their own capability to do all of those. So really depends on who they are and also the team's capability. And generally for the master distributors, that they were taking care of the supply chain, to make sure your product from the port to port distribution and logistic are smooth and also managed. So for brand, you don't need to worry about all of those uh, distribution, I mean like the logistics. So you just need to take the order from the master distributor and prepare all your stock to the port, whether it's in Melbourne, Port Melbourne, or whether your warehouse is basically. So the master distributor would take those stock directly from your warehouse and they will manage the rest. So this is the generally the master distributor would do. However, some scenarios that you might work with multiple stakeholders throughout the whole journey, you might involve your own supply chain partners that to taking care of the international logistic from Australia to China, and store your stock in the warehouses. And then your importer from China would take the stock from the China port and distribute to the local distributors. And maybe the distributor will work with the sub resellers, or maybe supply the stock directly to the retailers, and then consumers will receive the product. So this is the journey. And one isolated channel over here as the CBAC, the cross-border channel I mentioned previously, it doesn't involve too much of those stages, but they are directly shipping the product from Australia warehouses, or maybe the free trade zone warehouse, bonded warehouses towards the consumer directly. So they don't have all of those stages. So this is the area that might causing some issue with the stock the source of the stock are coming from different distributors and different countries. And then when consumer receive the product, they can't really tell whether this is coming from the general trade or maybe they are coming from the CBAC, but the price will be different. So the consumers will always going for the lower price. So as each of the stages, there of course will involve some kind of like a fees or the margin. For example, for the distributor, for the master distributor, when they take the stock, they need to calculate all of those layers. They need to leave or the margin for each of the stakeholders that they are managing underneath. So this is why sometimes that the distributor asking for higher distribution margin, just because they need to give those percentage margin to each individual layers. But not necessarily they have so many layers like this, which we will talk about at a later time. What's the best practice to having your distribution layer and the structure. So when you come in to select the right distributor, one of the key element that you need to consider is whether they have a strong control of the RP in the market in China. So this RP needs to be basically managed by your distributor, given that you are not there all the time that to manage and across all of the channels. So the distributor should be responsible for your pricing monitoring. Monitoring as in that they first initially they will set up your RP pricing, what sort of the recommended retail price should be looks like, and what's the promotion price should be looks like, and what's the super promotion looks like. Because in China, or actually in most of the country, we have those big promotion season in Australia, like the Big Friday or mid-year sales and the Christmas, etc. But in China, we also have a similar season like Double 11, Double 12, and also the mid-year sales. During those promotion periods, generally the brand needs to give the biggest promotion or discount that they have for the whole year. When those pricing structures set it up, they need to, or the distributor needs to be aware of what sort of the margin during those super promotion. Do they still making money or are they making a loss? So this is the calculation that the distributor should be doing and presenting back to you initially, to just to get you on board of this is going to be looks like in the China. So after you agreed or set up your pricing in the China, they need to monitoring across all the channel online or offline to make sure there's no channels damage the pricing. So which means that you give them a range of the pricing. It's not going to selling over X amount of dollar, not going to selling below X amount of the dollar. If they above or below, then which means that they are breaching the contract. So there will be a penalty involved by the distributor that they need to either clean out or pulling the stock from this retail, or what sort of the like action needs to be involved to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. So this is what I'm trying to say is that your pricing is very important, especially you are going to the online channels, because it's very transparent. Once you enter the market with your pricing, everything will be has a record, and also there will be a footprint later on, even if you are reducing the price or increase the price. So initially set up your pricing ceiling through your flagship store are very important. So that will give your kind of like a benchmark for the rest of the retailers to look up to. And then second one is whether your distributor or the partner that you work with has the ability to localize your brand, to fully understand what works in the market, what needs to be adapted, what needs to be maintained. So this is some example of the changes of the brand when you see the branding, the messages, everything from Australia, but when they're going to the China, it's coming to completely different shape, or the message. This is doesn't means that they are not following the branding guide or everything, but it's actually trying to adapt into the local market. For example, in the midway, the center image is the Us wine, which is from a South Australia wine. So they actually adapt into the year of snake, introducing a very limited label, follow the Chinese zodiac story, and also creating a series of the celebration label. So to celebrate the gifting season as well. So this is a example of the wine kind of like a tactics, the marketing tactics that you can apply. And then it's just the pairing with the Chinese cuisine is very important, because the palate are very different. The flavors that we eat are different. What sort of the wine is suitable for the hot pot, or maybe for the noodles, the carbs that we eat are very different. So it can be tailored, and also to drawing different stories, and bringing your wine into the everyday life that people can experience and can imagine. So this is some sort of like the ideal for your marketing tactics, and also when you work with the distributor, those are sort of the localizations needs to be involved and to be done. And then is your distributor's channel capability. It's not only from the sales perspective. Maybe if you want to give your distributor the control of your branding, then you need to monitor and also to understand whether they have the marketing capability or not, and what sort of the channels that they are good at or able to cover. So nowadays that the branding and the trade marketing are very linked together, and very important to drive your sales, and to shifting those direction of the consumer's preference towards your particular wine or particular season, particular promotions. So having those social media content seeding and building your brand awareness, building your brand stories are going to help you to justify your positioning in the market, and also your brand value, where you are not only just selling a bottle of wine, but you're selling the brand that you're actually creating from a couple of the generations, with the history, with the beautiful physical vineyard that people can actually experience with. So this is a omni-channel capability that your distributor ideally needs to have, or maybe if they don't have, looking for the partner who has this kind of the capability. Like Brand Canalizer, we're able to work with your distributor and with your brand to make sure that the brand and the trade marketing are aligned, and also towards the same goal that we're trying to achieve in the market. And another one is influencer of KOLs. Maybe sometimes that you would say, oh, the KOLs only just for the branding, just for the sponsored content, everything. But most of the KOLs in China now has the capability to drive sales through the live streaming, through their e-commerce stores, that they don't have to do the live streaming, but they have the e-commerce store to manage, and they can drive in those awareness through the content creation they do. So this is very important for the wine industry, because a lot of those wine educators or slash KOLs, that they have their own store, and also they do have a capability to sell stock. You can see them as small resellers that to be able to selling your product through their social media channels. So those KOLs can be working a long-term kind of like arrangement, or can be a once-off. So it really depends on the seasonality, and also what sort of the KOLs that you're working with. So two big platforms through those social e-commerce. One is the Douyin, which is China version of TikTok, and also Little Red Book. So I think from the previous workshop that we've explained how those two channels works and how important they are. If you haven't got time to download or have a play around, I would recommend you to have a check and to search on your brand name, see what comes out. And then I think from the very top level, the channel management side, you need to understand what's your distributor's capability, whether they are focusing on the online or offline. Ideally, the distributor needs to have both sides so they can monitoring both online and offline retail price, and also to shift the strategy or shift the tactics if they need to. So this is from the main online side, the JD, Tmall, and Douyin, which are the three big sales channel on the e-commerce. And also offline, of course, there are a lot of the grocery stores and the restaurant hospitality groups. So those are the different area that the distributor might play different strategy, and also to work across online and offline. So some examples, like tactics or best practice that you can take is you can introduce a different SKUs for online and offline. So mainly probably the more like a high price products, you can focus on the offline just because you give them more margin for the distributors, and most of the offline channels like the restaurant, everything, so they would prefer those more premium range and high price SKUs. But for the online, because it's B2C, sorry, and the consumers, their mentality when they come into those social e-commerce, they are looking for more like affordable price products. So if you're positioning your product in the e-commerce into the average RMB between like 200 to 300, I think that's a still very very compatible positioning. And then I think as if you participate with a lot of the programs that the Wine Victoria has facilitated, you might be aware that some of the retailers that they are able to purchase the stock directly from you rather than go through your distributor. So this is a really good for the brand to understand, and also to offer additional opportunities for you to engage in directly in the market. If you're not ready or not yet have a master distributor to open the market for you, but through all of those programs that Wine Victoria has facilitated this year, and also I think a lot of the program is going to come in next year. So we're providing you the engagement, and also to directly working with those retail stores, to presenting to them your brand, your product, and also for the procurement side, that their buyers will be able to directly purchasing from you. So this is what happened to the fresh people. So they are not going through any distributor, but they're directly purchasing with a brand. So by this kind of the exercise, you just saved a lot of the effort and also the margin from giving and working with the distributor in the market, but you already supplied the stock to the fresh people, those retail store. So similar to other like a Costco or Sam's, they are able to directly purchase from you directly. But before that, I think just have a very clear strategy in your export market, what sort of the pricing, because once you go into those channels, they are also have on omnichannel channel for online and offline, which means that your price will be disclosed and also transparent across the market. And it's actually not a bad thing, because you will have much more control with your margin, your distributors, and also your pricing in the market. And I think last but not least, just want to call out when you work with work with your distributor, really need to taking care of your IP, have your trademark registered, your brand name, logo, Chinese and English name, and also the geography indication protection of giving what sort of the authorization to your distributor, which region area, and how do you differentiate the cross-border and the general trade, and of course the copyright, and also the patent if you have any particular technology or the things that you need to be patented. And also I think for the website or the domain name, I would recommend to get a .cn domain name just for your brand if you already have a website in australia.com or something. So this is going to help you preventing any distributor or any other people trying to take your brand name over. And of course, like have your IP monitoring, or always just cross check if there's any fake product coming up. But I think most of those exercises will be done by your distributor, or if you work with the channels directly. Once you give them authorizations to sell one particular channel, the rest of the channel generally they shouldn't be have any of your stock. If they do, it means that that probably is not coming from the official channel. And of course, having your proper agreement with your distributor, I think is very necessary and also very important. Just in case anything goes wrong, you still have a written document that to referring back to. And last part, I just thought to be very useful to explain to you the pricing strategy, how it works, and how can you set up your long-term strategy for your export market, whether you are doing through the distributor or whether you are ready to take everything on board with your own team. So the first layers that when we look into export market is considering the consumers and where's your consumers are. Of course, that in the China, the consumers will be in China, but another consumers will be in Australia and also outside of Australia and China. And then we move forward towards the retails, different retails in different countries, online and offline, and maybe different retails will be managed by different sub resellers, and each country you have a distributor to manage all those reseller, and then back to your importer. Probably this is how the structure might looks like when they're coming down to the China market. So you might say, oh, when I go into China, maybe there's only one way to go towards the Chinese consumers in China through the middle way, but there was another cross border, as I mentioned. This is a very unique channel. Just need to be considered and planned into your overall China export strategy. And another one, which is the AliExpress or Lazada. So the warehouses actually can be used in China. So which means that the distributor in China is able to supply the stock to AliExpress or Lazada that exporting to the rest of the market, like a Southeast Asia market through Lazada, or back to Australia, or maybe back to US market through the AliExpress. So this is the different pathway that the stock can potentially go. Yeah. So then your export manage or the export team will need to look after all of those export market and across different pathway and the stock management. So in the first year priority for your China market, when you initially go, I think those are the 6 key priority. The first one is to set up your pricing strategy, to have a very clear pricing tiers, and also the margin calculation for your distributor, so you know what sort of the distributor you are able to work with. If they're asking for more or asking lower, why is that? And you will be able to figure out. And then it's mapping out the sales channels. Which channels are you planning to go on, and what channels is more important for your brand and what's not. So you need to prioritize those channels as well. It's not like whoever comes to you, you give the stock. You have to plan properly to avoid any damage on your brand, and also to build a very solid export strategy for the long term, to understand how many players do you want to work with in the market, and also what sort of your short-term goal and long-term goal. And the fourth one, to manage your stock volume. So you don't want to see there too much stock in one particular market that everyone is trying to dumping the stock from the hand. So this is the also needs to be managed properly alongside with your forecast. And then to review the product range in China, whether your current product is able to meet the preference by the market, what can you do more, what's the MPD looks like. And potentially you can consider have a China representative, whether it's coming from your Australian team, or maybe hire someone in China to be the point of contact for all the stakeholders that you manage in China. And of course, the first year, the quickest and also the cost efficient way is to work with a master distributor in China who has a great coverage across major sales channel and also have a strong in-house operational capability. Um, and then is the 1/3 years roadmap. After you've been to the market for, let's say, 3 years time, maybe you can start to consider having your own team set up over there, and maybe instead of working with a master distributor, you have your own supply chain partners that you can directly shipping your stock to the local distributor's warehouse, and then you can have the rest of the channels managed by the local distributor rather than having a master distributor. So you are taking additional margin from the master distributor. So this is like the way to go through. And once you in kind of like a 3 years market status, I think this is the time that you can try to reduce the numbers of the sub resellers that buy the distributor. Maybe you work with a local distributor who has the capability to work with the retailers directly, rather than leveraging or have to use some of the resellers to go into the channels, because the leaner layers of your distribution structure, the more margin that you can take, the more margin the distributor can take, so they can work harder for your brand. And essentially, your local distributor needs to be managed, and also to be careful with your sayback channel, whether it's coming from the China sayback, or maybe it's the reverse China sayback. It's like what I mentioned, like AliExpress, or maybe the the Lazada channels. So yeah, and then from the 3 to 5 years time, I think you'll be able to start having a little bit more control over the distribution, instead of just having one kind of like element into the supply chain partner. Maybe you set up your company in China to kind of like be the importer of your own brand from Australia to China. So which means that all the product registration will be under your own company. So you don't need to see like, or experience in the later time that you have to convince your distributor to transfer the general trade license to another distributor. So it's a lot of headache, and also not everyone will kind of like support that kind of a movement. So yeah, it's a really important for your long-term goal that you have your own control of your branding, your general trade license, and also the distribution management. So potentially you can start to have a handful of your team in China to manage maybe partially of the retailers. So your team directly working with those retailers instead of go through the distributor. But still, maybe the distributor are still working with some new channels that to helping you enlarging and increase the market coverage. So this is the 3 to 5 years time, potentially this is a structure that you could look like. So ideally, this is a unified distribution framework as a solution that you work with the importer or the distributors, and then no sub resellers. So you can directly supply the stock to those groceries, big giant chain, or maybe your distributor can supply those stock and manage the market for you. So this will be much simpler and also easier to for both brand and also for your distributor to manage this market. So it will be much healthy kind of the structure. So three big points. The first one is to having a master distributor for China market. It can help you to control the pricing, to have a tighter pricing structure, and also simplify supply chain, and of course to improve the brand integrity and better consumer experience. And the second one is to manage your stock properly, to make sure that the demand is more than the stock that you supplied in this market. This is very important because we don't want any grocery store or retailers or sub resellers to dumping the product across different channels. So you need to manage your forecast and manage your production line. And streamlining distribution will definitely help you to see much clearer of what's going on in the market, to know to be able to track which source of the stock is coming from. So if there's any issues with your pricing or your product, you know who to go into. So this is just a best practice of the distribution scenario. And yeah, I think that's comes to the end. I think if you have any questions that you might be able to reach out to the to Helani from Victoria, or to me myself, we can discuss, and maybe if you're experiencing any of those challenges, we can have a chat.